Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast, episode number 148. Jim and Eva SHOCKEY. Off camera, humble beginnings, outdoor riding, 88 death threats in 24 hours, and the true meaning of hunting and conservation. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible.
Today's show is brought to you by Morris's Sporting Goods and the Euro Hanger.
Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Grant Woods from Growing Deer TV. You're listening to one of my favorite deer hunting podcasts on the internet, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Deer Hunting Podcast.
Hey, this is Dr. Carl Miller, and you're listening to my favorite hunting podcast on the internet, the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck Podcast.
This is Josh Carney, son of the South. You're listening to my number one podcast on the internet, the Big Buck Registry Big Buck Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. My name is Jay. You know what? I'm really psyched that you decided to tune in and give us an hour of your ear by pushing that play button right there on your iPhone or iDevice. And you know, if you like the show, if you would, go do a search for the Big Buck Registry in iTunes. And when you get there, if you wouldn't mind, we could use a couple of reviews. Write a review if you love the show. Leave us a 5-star and subscribe. Because I know my good friend Dusty is subscribed to the show. So if he can do it, you can do it too. What's happening, Dusty?
By now, Jay, Saturday, it's going to be the second day in the New Hampshire turkey woods.
Yes. Yes, it is. And
I'm headed to New Hampshire this week. We're going to hunt the thunder chickens. We're going to kill the thunder chickens. We're going to eat the thunder chickens. And we're going to make some great life memories, Jay.
Yes, we are. That is a fact, Jack.
Yeah, I can't wait to hang out with yourself, Greg, Tom Staples, Mike Bierman. We're all coming up.
Yep.
The Living Room Buck's going to be in New Hampshire.
Yep. Thought we'd swing over and see the gang over at Morris's Sporting Goods.
For sure.
See what Randy's up to. See what Jim's up to.
See what Tom's up to, yeah. Jim's up to. Everybody there at Morris's, see what's shaking. I'm sure we're going to be able to check out some turkeys being checked in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we're going to have an epic weekend.
And you know what else is epic that's happening is the show today.
Sure. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
You know, they've appeared individually on other podcasts, but unless something's happened recently, I don't think any podcast has had the likes of Jim and Eva SHOCKEY on the same show at the same time. And we noticed that they have this really funny canter between the two of them when they get together. They constantly pick on each other. And here we are. We were able to get them both onto our show at the same time. Jim and Eva SHOCKEY joining us right here on the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. Can you believe that?
It's going to be amazing. You know, it's going to be a show that you're going to go back and listen back through, I'm sure of it. It's
a cool show because we kind of go through their entire life setup and we ask them some tough questions.
For sure. You know
I think, and they answered very honestly, which I appreciated. You know, they didn't skirt the question; they went right for it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the things where we did get a little deeper than most have heard, and you know, it's some stories that are coming from the heart. You know, with obviously Eva's grandfather and Jim's father. We're going to get deep into the show, and that's what we like to do, Jay. And you know. We're going to go the extra mile and have both of them on and together and just kind of go with the flow and see where it leads us to.
And I guarantee you that you're going to learn something about Jim and Eva that you've never heard before when you listen to this interview. I do have a shout out I'd like to give this week, Dusty. We had somebody write in, a fellow by the name of Kyle Rosner. And Kyle wrote, he goes, "Hey man, just wanted to let you know I love the show. You guys do a great job. It's like my bedtime story every night that I go to sleep." LOL. So isn't that great? Anyway,
yeah, that is great, you know, and we appreciate everybody that sends us in a message or gets in touch with us at either one of our emails, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com or jay@bigbuckregistry.com, and shoot us an email and tell us what you think about the show, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. And he says he has a good story to tell, and I'm going to give him a call and find out what that's all about. And who knows, maybe he'll appear with his great deer story right here on the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast, powered by USA Trail Cams.
And shoot it out to all the listeners. If you got somebody that's got a story that's just beyond and above the rest, get with us. We'll talk to anybody and get the details on that particular story and see if it's something that we think that our listeners would enjoy and would like to hear. And you just never know. You may be the next guest on the Big Buck Registry.
This is very true. We love a good deer story. So before we turn to Jim and Eva Shockey, let's turn to Jim Keller with the deer news.
The deer news this week is sponsored by the Euro Hanger. You don't have to spend big bucks to hang your big buck. Get yourself a Euro Hanger. Facebook.com/Eurohanger, EUROHANGER.
For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News. In our first story, scent companies join the fight against CWD. This story was originally featured in Outdoor Life and was written by Craig Doherty. Many scientists in the deer disease community believe the prions found in urine-based scents may spread chronic wasting disease, or CWD. However, there is no conclusive scientific research that indicates that scent products have anything to do with the transmitting of CWD. However, as a precaution, the Archery Trade Association, members of the scent industry, wildlife agencies, and CWD experts have developed a new quote-unquote deer protection program designed to ensure that ATA member scent manufacturers do everything possible to prevent the spread of chronic wasting disease in wild deer, elk, and moose in the United States. The program encourages scent manufacturers and urine suppliers to develop self-imposed protective restrictions on their products and the deer elk facilities that provide urine for those products. The restrictions are designed to ensure urine-based scent products don't contain the infectious prions that cause CWD. Scent manufacturers enrolled in the ATA program can display the ATA's quote-unquote seal of participation label on scent products that originate from facilities participating in the program. Mr. Doherty reports that many, if not most of the scent manufacturers are participating in the program. For more details on the program, including the criteria these companies must follow, please check our show notes at bigbuckregistry.com. Vermont deer herd expected to be largest since 2007. This story was reported by Lawrence Pine of the Burlington Free Press. Vermont wildlife biologists expect the statewide deer herd going into the fall will number from 140 to 145,000, which is the highest since 2007 and the second highest since 2001. Biologists say the increased herd is a result of two factors. One, relatively few antlerless deer permits were issued last year, and the hunter success rate during the December muzzleloading hunt, when antlerless permits are valid, was lowest on record. And two, those deer fared extremely well during the past winter, which was the mildest since the State Fish and Wildlife Department began tracking daily snow depths and temperatures in 1970. In addition, overwinter deer survival was extremely good, biologists say, particularly among fawns born the previous spring, which are especially vulnerable to the harsh winter weather. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife Board is proposing changes to antlerless permits being offered with the goal of reducing deer density in some management units while keeping it flat or increasing it in others. For more information on these proposed changes, as well as dates for public hearings on them, please check our show notes or visit vtfishandwildlife.com. Researchers find new bacteria that transmits Lyme disease. This story was written by Alan Clemens of deeranddeerhunting.com. A second bacteria has been discovered that causes Lyme disease and is carried by the same deer tick. The new bacteria has different symptoms than the more common ones sustained by those infected with the disease. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Mayo Clinic, and state health department officials from North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota announced the findings last February. They revealed that the bacteria, Borrelia mayoni, may cause Lyme disease, which infects more than 200,000 Americans annually. The new bacteria causes symptoms such as nausea, fatigue, headache, and fever in the early stages. The new bacteria does not cause the quote-unquote bullseye rash around the bite area, but instead causes diffuse rashes. If treated early enough, those symptoms may disappear. If untreated, Lyme disease can cause serious problems to the nervous system, heart, and joints, including being life-threatening. This discovery adds another important piece of information to the complex picture of tick-borne disease in the United States, says CDC microbiologist Dr. Janine Peterson in a press release. Oklahoma legalizes suppressors for hunting on public land. This story was originally reported by OutdoorHub.com. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin signed into law House Bill 2637, which legalized suppressors for hunting on public land. Hunting with suppressors on private land is already legal in the state and has been since 2012. Oklahoma now joins the rest of the nation allowing suppressors to be used for hunting. According to the American Silencer Association, only a handful of states still ban hunters from using the devices, including California, Hawaii, and New York. Hunters say suppressors, also known as silencers, reduce gunshots to hearing-safe levels and prevent hearing loss. Opponents, however, worry that it could cause a safety concern or allow poachers to take animals without alerting those nearby. Supporters say these concerns have no basis in reality and that the benefit of such suppressors far outweigh the negatives. The NRA has also backed legislation to remove the ban on suppressor use, adding that evidence has shown that suppressors provide a healthier and more enjoyable shooting experience. That concludes this week's edition of the Big Buck Registry's Deer News. If you have any ideas for future topics or have questions about any of these topics, please email me at jim@bigbuckregistry.com. For the Big Buck Registry, this is Jim Keller with the Deer News.
Thanks, Jim Keller, for the Deer News this week. And without further ado, here is Jim and Eva Shockey.
Jim and Eva Shockey, welcome to the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. How's it going?
Great, thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure to have you on. As most people do these days, we notice from Facebook and social media and see what you both are up to most of the time. I want to go deeper than Facebook today. I want to really kind of get into some who you guys really are, offset and behind the camera, so to speak.
Uh-oh.
Sounds good to me.
So you got an uh-oh and a sounds good. All right.
I like
I've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I like editing my life a little bit on Facebook, so it looks like all the good things. I don't know if I want to answer any more questions than those really nice ones.
And as far as any deeper with me past Facebook, no problem at all, because there's lots of depth there.
Uh-huh.
You a little worried? Eve?
Nope, not go. Go ahead, you guys.
Go
I'm
for
ready.
it.
Yeah, bring it on.
All right. Jim, I wanted to ask you some questions about kind of how your career got started. I've talked to some people that I think you worked with in the past, and it's kind of an interesting development from where you are today to from going back to where you started. How did you become the person you are today in the hunting world? Where did that all start?
Well, I've always been a hunter. From my first memories were hunting bugs, beetle bugs and earthworms. So, from 2 years on, I was a hunter. But on the professional side, that had its beginning. I remember Louise and I were just married, so this would be 84, and I can remember reading a magazine and looking through it and a hunting magazine and not seeing any articles that I was interested in reading because it was a lot of how to, to me, hunting was something beyond just how to do it.
Right.
I wanted to be entertained. I wanted to be taken on a trip like like Ruark and J.A. Hunter and, even Hemingway to a degree. These great writers took us on adventures. It was something bigger than just how to kill your hamburger for dinner. And I remember thinking there wasn't one in that magazine, and I would like to, tell about one of my hunts that was an adventure. And so I sat down and wrote an article and sent it off to a magazine called Bowbender Magazine. It's a Canadian publication, and it was accepted. Kathleen Windsor was the editor, and she paid me $42 for my article, and that launched my professional hunting career.
Wow! How did you feel when you got the $42 for something you wrote?
I was pretty happy about it. I think I probably still have the check somewhere. I doubt that I ever cashed it. I was way, way more interested in just seeing my name in lights, seeing the magazine come out with my byline and then my article, that was entertaining people. So, it's never been about the money. It really hasn't. It's
right.
Money is a way to go hunting more, but it's not even back then, it wasn't about the money. It was just about telling a story that I thought needed to be told about hunting.
Right. It is pretty cool when you can get paid for the things that you like to talk about, though. I think you have to agree with me there.
Every morning I wake up and go, thank you, and I promise to do my best. If someone has to do this job, I will do it. It's
right.
been very, very fortunate.
Yeah. I was talking to Gordon Whittington, and he tells me that you used to write a comedy column for North American Whitetail. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, that was. I like writing. It's something that I think if I have any talent, maybe that's it. It's hard to judge myself, and I'm not trying to brag, but humor is something that I've been able to write. And I wrote a column for Gordon that I was writing under the byline or under the nom de plume of Ace Hadler was my writing name. So yeah, I did for several years.
Nice. Wrote
for Gordon. I also wrote the back page column for a North American Hunter magazine, and that was like 600,000 circulation, maybe even 700,000. That was a humor column as well. I can't remember the name of the darn column, but I did that for about 10 years too. Yeah, I like writing humor.
Very cool. Eva, is your dad a funny guy?
He thinks he's really funny. I would say he has a pretty good sense of humor. When you're talking about his columns, it's actually one of my favorite memories when I was younger, where my bedroom was when I grew up. It was basically his humongous office attached right onto my bedroom. So my bedroom door was right at the entrance of his office. And he would, almost every morning, I'd wake up back a long time ago when I was quite small, and I'd hear him reading his articles to my mom out loud, like to proof them, and she'd always tell him like, oh, that's maybe a little too much, or that part, maybe you should cut that part out. And I remember I would sit there in bed and wake up to him reading, and I think it's one of my favorite things. And I wish that he still wrote, especially his humor columns, because he somehow made himself sound really funny, and his humor columns were pretty incredible.
That would be a backhanded compliment, I'd say. Thank you, Eva.
I just can't quite give you a full compliment, but yes, his writing was good. I'll tell you that.
Oh, that's funny. Can you remember any of the articles from back then, Eva, that made you chuckle more than others?
Yeah, because half of them were about me at my expense, and I didn't really have any say in them because, technically they were feeding our family the money from them. So he would write about when I was a teenager, how we'd be at the SCI convention, the Safari Club International, and I'd be at the booth, and there'd be sort of young boys hanging around trying to talk to me, and he was relating the young boys, like young bucks in the rut, how they were all scraping and like going against branches and stuff, and he was making fun of me basically. I think he talked about my first date and my first boyfriend in those articles. It was pretty humiliating, actually, thinking back on it.
Gotcha. So
she was a huge inspiration for many of the articles.
So your entire core development age of your life was put in the public eye from day one.
Exactly, before the TV show even really existed. And I'll say also, one of the stories that I think is kind of funny, I don't think she thinks it's very funny, but my mom had the same situation with my dad using her as his muse. So my mom, I don't know if you know what she looks like, but she's like beautiful and super healthy and in shape and like just a wonderful person. And my dad, as a joke, he made her sound kind of like really big and not what she's like at all. I don't really know how to describe it, but he said jokes like he used her underwear as the tarp for his boat, like stuff like that. And then he was at the shows with her one time, and people were whispering, and there was a rumor saying that like, who's Jim at the show with? That's not his wife, but it was my mom. It's just because people thought my mom was really what the articles made her sound like. Wow. So my mom had to clarify that actually is not me. That's not true. So you guys are lucky you didn't grow up with Jim writing about you.
I'm starting to feel bad, except I'm also laughing. So
right, well, you can't feel that bad about it.
Yeah, no,
that's funny.
No, it's fun. I think I even remember talking about Evie's first boyfriend. It was I remember me in the article came to tell Louisa, he goes to Harvard. He's got a 4.0 average. He's from a moneyed family worth billions. He's a Duke of Kinade or something. And I said, so basically he's got no redeeming characteristics at all. He's not good enough for Eva. So,
right.
So
that's funny.
That's, again, backhanded compliment back to you. I was very protective of her.
Gotcha. Jim, did you grow up in Canada?
Yeah, I did. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Well, the first 5 years of my life, we lived in trailer parks all over Western Canada. We finally got a house when I was 5 years old. So spent the rest until I was 17 there, 12 years, and then I went off to university in Western Canada out of Vancouver.
Gotcha. And at the university, I understand that you were a swimmer, a competitive swimmer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was All-American swimmer for NAIA conference, so smaller colleges. We were the only Canadian university that gave scholarships, Simon Fraser University, so we weren't allowed to compete in those days. I'm old enough where amateur was supposed to be amateur and no money, so giving a scholarship was considered not amateur. So we competed in the States, and I started my first two years. I was on scholarship for swimming, and then I flipped over to water polo and made it on the Canadian national water polo team and did that for 6 more years.
Wow! All right, so that's to me, water polo. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I can float around in my pool with a beer, but that's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about water polo.
Well, hey, you know what? Most water polo players can do the same thing, too.
Yes, they can. Yes.
And I have to say that I may have done that a little bit in my past life, too. But, it was a great – water polo is a fantastic sport, and I loved it. It was – I'm 6 – well, I would have been 6'3" in those days. Now I'm back down to probably 6'2", but, 192 pounds was my playing weight, and I was the third smallest on our team, and we didn't have a big team. So
if you were playing now, you'd be a lot heavier on the team.
That's pretty funny, Eva. That's pretty funny. That's because I've worked on developing my muscles since then, so I've got a lot more muscles. That's why I'm a little bit heavier than. Let's just say I wouldn't fit into my wedding suit anymore.
So you'd be playing goalie now? Is that the?
Actually, goalies had to be able to get out of the water really high to stop the
is that right?
So
Gotcha.
I suspect I'd be playing bench warmer.
Bench warmer today. Got it. Eva,
until they needed a hitman, then of course I could still do that part.
All right. You can take him out. You take him out at the knees.
That's well, in the water it'd probably be higher than that, a little bit higher.
Right. Eva, did you follow up with your dad with any kind of water sports when you was in school?
I think I actually went the opposite of water sports because when I was little, he wanted me to do the water sports. And so there was a lot of forced swim lessons from father to daughter, and I did not like it very much. So I went the route. I played tennis and I danced and I played competitive field hockey for up until I went to college. I kind of wish I would have listened a little better because I'm actually really not a very good swimmer. It's something I think I should have practiced a little bit more than I did.
We were just trying to keep her from drowning. We knew there was absolutely not a hope of her actually excelling at a sport like a tough sport like swimming.
Brutal. Just pure brutal here.
Hey, Evie, no retort on that one, Evie? What's going on?
No, I'm not even. I just kind of have to ignore you at some point.
Oh, that's funny. Was growing up in Canada was that a tough place to grow up? Do you consider yourself to be? I mean, you're a big guy, you're a physical guy, you're a hunter. Did that whole persona come from living in Canada in the northern parts of the world, or is that just doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, there's big guys all over the place, and there's tough guys. My goodness sakes, you go up to Alaska and you want to see tough guys.
Right.
Yukon, but again, down south, there's some southern boys that they're as tough as they come. So I don't know that it's geographic oriented. I think it's just your desire to do something that's with physicality involved. So, I love physical work and I love climbing hills. I'm not afraid of working 24/7, literally for years on end. So, I think that's more, it's, and I don't know if that's innate or whether it's nurtured, if it comes from your parents. My mom grew up as didn't have shoes, and they grew up in the dirty 30s, or she was born in 31 in Alberta with no money from Ukrainian immigrant parents. So, she was tough. And I think she probably instilled that into me to a certain degree because it's, she, wanted her children to be tougher, stronger, because of the hardships she had to deal with. Now, of course, like our children are so spoiled. They don't need to be tough. They get silver spoon.
I knew something was coming.
I basically said Eva up there, but I don't know. I think there's some nature. It's innate, and then it's nurturing what your parents instilled in you for values, whether it's hard work or whether they gave you everything. I certainly wasn't given everything. But I knew my parents were always there backing me, so that gave me, confidence and to try things and know that if I did fail, they would catch me. So, and I don't mean financially because I couldn't do that. We didn't have any money, but just there for support. So, I think a lot of it comes from family, where you end up. And then, of course, it's right place, right time, with the right skill set. So it's, it takes a combination of all that to end up at a certain place in your life.
Gotcha. Eva, how do you feel about that? Do you think that you have an easier path than your dad did?
I'd say that I obviously am very aware that he is a pretty significant figure in the hunting industry. I will say he wasn't when I was growing up. I mean, he didn't start where he is now. He worked really, really, very, very hard and a lot of hours and days and months and years to get to where he is. And I think a big part of what I'm like and my work ethic and work habits are based on the fact that I saw how hard he was working. And I know that sometimes people do see him now and say, oh, when everything's like when you have a guide or when whatever, and they say some sort of comment about he doesn't deserve to be doing what he's doing and like he should work harder. And I just wish they could see the hours that he put in. And I think that was just such a good example. Him and my mom both. She stayed home with us, which she gave up a career to do that, which is also an incredible thing to learn from. And I mean, I had more of a step up than he did 100%, but they had us, I mean, we had summer jobs. I had jobs through university. We did know how to work, and my brother and I still do know how to work at our age now, even though we did have a lot of support, and to this day we still have a lot of support doing what we're doing.
Jim, how did you meet Louise?
Who handed you these questions? That's what I want to know. Here's the deal. It was 1984, and I was sitting there one night by myself, no girlfriend, and thinking, where would a guy find pretty girls that have nice bodies, that are athletic and talented, and the bars that I've been hanging out at didn't see any there. So I thought to myself, well, dance class. There's got to be girls like that at taking dance lessons.
So it's a great answer.
So I looked in the Yellow Pages, found the one dance studio in Vancouver, British Columbia that had, the full page was an advertisement on a dance studio. So, well, it's got to be the biggest, so it's probably the best. And I phoned them, and what do you got tonight at 5:00? And they said, well, we have a class, advanced ballet jazz, being taught by Louise. And I said, that sounds great. So I dressed up in my shorty shorts in those days and little muscle shirt and showed up at that dance class. So there was 30 beautiful women there, one gay guy, me, and then Louise was teaching it. And that we were married 6 months later.
I don't suppose you have any photos from that event.
Eva's thinking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there was, I'm sure if Eva knew where they were, she would find them and they'd be posted on Facebook for millions of people to laugh at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a mission fantastic for you, Eva.
Yeah, well, he actually, there's a lot of things I get to work with because he was also somewhere along the same timeline. Way before me, he was an underwear model. And for some creepy reason, we still have those photos floating around the house. So there's been a few times that those have gotten posted, or at least him in his mankini or whatever he used to wear when he played water polo.
Is that right? Oh, very interesting. Okay.
Excuse me, $75 an hour as an underwear model. It was better money than doing runway stuff, so why not? And I just looked at it as advertising.
Right.
I know that's probably too crude for this podcast, but there you go. I already said it. You can edit it out if you want.
No, that's staying in. Absolutely. Oh, that's good. That's really good stuff. So, Eva, how did you meet your husband? And your husband is Tim, correct?
Tim, yeah. So my husband is a professional hockey player, and we met about, 4 years ago, and I was doing a show circuit, so going to all the trade shows, and at the time I was selling T-shirts, like hunting T-shirts, and talking to people about hunting, and I was on the road for about 3 months, and one of my stops was in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's called the Dixie Deer Classic, and he, at the time, was playing for the Hurricanes, which is the NHL team out of Raleigh, and he's a hunter and fisherman, so he came to the show, and we just talked for a couple minutes, and he told his friend that night that he was going to marry me, which I was not aware of, and about a year later, we started dating, and a year later got engaged, and a year later got married, so now that's where we are.
Oh, wow. No kidding. So, Jim, how do you feel about letting Eva find a man being as protective as you are of your daughter?
Well, I was protective only until she was 14. And then when aliens possessed her, I said, okay, how are we going to find somebody for her? So when Tim showed up, I mean, and Eva can corroborate this, I warned them how many times, Eva? Like pretty much every single time I saw him, I said, you know what you're getting into. So no, I'm.
It was really mean.
Mean to Eva, but Tim kind of thinks it's funny because now he understands what I'm talking about. But Tim's a man's man. There's your job as a parent is to make sure your children get to whatever age they need to get to, and then you hand them off to a spouse that hopefully looks after them and that they're in love with and their soulmate for the rest of their life, and the whole cycle continues. And that I could not have gone out and picked a better man than Tim. Honestly, he's a great guy, and so both Louise and I are so happy for both of them. So yeah, it was easy. That decision, all joking aside, Tim is a great guy, and I totally respect him.
So there wasn't this situation where you had to have Tim over, be cleaning the guns in your underwear and your hat, saying, "Hey, good luck."
Well, I don't know if Tim's listening to this, but there certainly was other gentlemen over the years prior to Tim where I'd have been happy to do a lot more. And of course, Eva was smart enough never to bring him to my home. That would be like into my lair.
Gotcha.
And I would have taken care of him.
Tim's actually not listening right now. Thanks, Dad.
Is he listening?
No, he's not. The door was open and I started talking and he came and slid the door closed. So clearly, which I'm glad.
But he'll hear the podcast. So
right.
Hey Tim, I think you're a great guy, and the other guys were losers.
So Eva, is that how it went down?
Well, kind of. I mean, he really was. I mean, not about the other guys, but he was really protective growing up, and kind of all the men in my family were. My uncle lived up the road with 2 German Shepherds. He was a hunter, and then we had a guy that lived just further past his house, and he had 2 sheepdogs, like attack dogs. And then my dad was down at the bottom of the road. He had to come all the way past all these houses with the guard dogs to get to my house. So it was just never a situation that was worth bringing anyone else home to. So when Tim came home, it really was someone that my dad had huge respect for. It actually got to the point when Tim asked for his permission to propose to me. My dad knew it was coming, and he kind of told my mom he was going to be tough on him and kind of give him a speech. Tim asked him, and my dad started crying. So it never. That really is how it happened.
Here's the thing: deny. So there, it's Evie's word against my word.
Oh, so Eva, you're saying Jim got soft and teary-eyed on you?
Exactly, and then so he's kind of all talk until it really came down to it, and I agree that I made a great choice, and Tim is. I had to just wait till someone was tougher than my dad, and that's who I decided to marry.
That's great. That's a great story. So, Jim, let's talk about your dad a little bit. I would assume he was an influence in your life growing up and teaching you how to hunt. Tell me about your dad.
Dad was salt of the earth. He was a road construction superintendent when he retired at 66, and had worked his way all the way up from labor back in the 1940s, just after World War II. Worked for the same company his entire life. The most devoted, honorable, honest. I mean, every good thing you can say about somebody. That was my dad, and he loved hunting, but growing up in the 30s, they didn't have anything, and so hunting for him was about getting meat. And even though he understood the other part of hunting, the spiritual side, they didn't have the luxury of being able to afford the time to go enjoy hunting for that reason. So, but he knew it was there. It was in his heart and in his soul. But for them, it was if they could go hunting on whitetail opening day, get a deer, and be back at work by noon, season over, that was a great hunting season.
Right.
Yet I know that he would have loved for it to be longer. He just couldn't, his upbringing just wouldn't allow them to enjoy life like that and enjoy the outdoors. You had to work. You had to get back to work. It had to be about getting meat and nothing more. So, yeah, Dad taught me how to hunt, but it wasn't until after he retired. The day he retired, I mean, people said he was so devoted to his job that he would never live past, 2 or 3 years after retirement. And the day he retired, I, basically hired him, for not a lot of money, like zero, but come out and work in our bear camp and our outfitting territories. And he did that literally until he couldn't move around anymore. And for another 20 plus years and loved every second of it. At that point in his life, he could start to, look around and say, well, he had grandchildren. He was a success and had lived honorably his whole life, and now he could enjoy the hunts, which he did. We went to Africa with him, to Australia, New Caledonia, the Yukon. I mean, he's hunted everything and everywhere that he wanted to. So it was something I could give back to him.
Gotcha. That's he sounds like quite a guy, from very basic upbringing to getting to enjoy the outdoors probably more than he did when he was younger, and for a different aspect of it compared to what he was doing it for when he was just hunting for meat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this gave him the opportunity because for us, a lot of us nowadays, it is about the meat for sure, because that's what we live on. And when I grew up, if we didn't get our moose every year, we didn't eat meat in the winter. We didn't go buy a cow. So that's part of it still, but we want our hunting seasons to last longer. We want them, in a perfect world, it would last until the last minute of the last day of the season. We got to hunt every single day. And that's, Dad got to that point where he started understanding. He always understood, but he just didn't have the luxury of embracing it, to listen to the coyotes in the morning and feel the fresh, air and the frost and the beauty as the sun rises and a deer comes by and you let it live and so you can continue to hunt and that animal can continue to live and propagate and wait for an older one that's beyond breeding age. I mean, these are all things that he started to understand or started to embrace later on in his life. And he still played the part of, because it's still him, the meat. He didn't care about the antler size. That part he didn't. He never did care about that, no matter what it was, unless of course it was bigger than one that I got, and then he would just do it for the sake of doing it. But it was still about meat, but it was more about the family and extending the experience of being in the outdoors and hunting. By the end of his hunting life.
Okay. Did you learn anything hunting technique wise from your dad?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's the one that taught me how to shoot. He was, and I won't say this out in public, but him, Eva, and our son Brandon are the best shots with a rifle that I've ever met in my life. And I've met a lot of really good shots. And I'm talking about, hunting shots. So Dad was an exceptionally good shot, and he taught me the basics, so right from the beginning, safety. I mean, the fundamentals of hunting, he taught me, and I can still to this day remember him, how disgusted he was when someone hit a deer on a hunting group that we were on and hit it too far back. And he just thought that was atrocious. How can anybody do that? And to this day, I am paranoid about shooting too far back on a deer. It's got to be in the boiler room, as he always said. And
right.
Yeah, he taught me all that. Now, the style of hunting in those days, it was about meat. So, pushing bush is what we called it. They'd get together, all my uncles and Dad, and they'd try and push the deer out of a bush to somebody running, running boom, boom, boom. And that was a style of hunting, but it didn't, it wouldn't be, the skill was in the shooting. It wasn't necessarily in figuring a deer out and hunting it till you got it. So those skills, that was something that there was another fellow that taught me a lot of those, was Pete Manziuk. He's passed away now, but old Pete used to hunt jumpers, and he taught me the really more important skills of hunting. And a cousin of mine, Ronnie Colburn, excellent hunter who lived and died hunting, same age as me. Him and I both grew up hunting, and he was a better whitetail hunter than I'll ever be, still is, and he taught me a lot of the skills too. So it was peers growing up, learning it as we went along.
Gotcha. Eva, and this might be hard to answer with your dad listening, but what types of skills did your dad teach you about whitetail hunting or just hunting in general that you still have like deeply embedded in your soul today?
You guys keep asking me questions that I have to compliment him. I feel like he's paying you for these questions. Like, do I have to keep giving him all these nice comments? I don't mind doing it, but not when he's on the phone, too.
Eva, what's some of the bad stuff your dad taught you that you had to just throw out of your head?
Yeah, I could go on and on about bad habits.
Bad habits. I'd like to hear some of the bad habits as well. That'd be interesting.
Well, her dad does like junk food, Twizzlers, so I may have passed that particular one on, yes.
Yeah, he's a bit of a sugar freak, which has not helped when we're sitting in long truck rides together. I guess a lot, obviously he taught me basically everything I know up until this point about hunting. I hunted with him exclusively until probably 3-4 years ago when I started going off with other people and with guides or with friends or filming the show by myself without him. But up until that point, I really relied on him for everything that I knew. And it was amazing when I started. I was in a hunting family. I grew up with hunting, but I didn't hunt until I was 20. And I remember starting at 20 thinking, oh, I'll know a lot about this because I heard my dad talk about it. And when I got out there, it's amazing how much you take for granted that it's not common sense to the average person. And even someone growing up in a hunting family, it's not naturally in your brain how this stuff works. You really have to learn from someone and be mentored, I think, from either someone or read about it enough that you understand it. One of the things that I have, or I really appreciate, I guess, that he taught me would be the respect for the animals, which these animals give their life so that you can eat them, put them in your freezer, share them with your friends and family, and appreciate that meat for the rest of the year or the rest of the however long it lasts. And that's something that means a lot to me. And that's really why I started hunting in the first place, because I thought it was so important in my life to be eating organic, free-range, wild game instead of whatever I could buy without knowing where it was coming from. And so that was a really big thing, which is a big part of our family. I mean, I only had Dad. Didn't we only have moose and caribou and deer growing up, basically? I don't remember ever buying steak or having anything from the supermarket in our house.
Yeah, never bought meat.
That's awesome.
Which is a great way to grow up, and it really makes you appreciate the meat when you're sitting there. Just for dinner tonight, we had elk, and my husband and I, and we sat there, and you can appreciate it and think about, oh, this elk was from Utah when I was out there last year on a hunt, and I thought about it and thought about the animal and its life, and that just means a lot when you can do that just because you're sitting at dinner almost a year later.
Right. Yeah, it seems like you have more respect for the animal when you actually were the one that shot it and harvested it and brought it back to be butchered, or you butchered it yourself and you're actually feasting on that game. There's something way more rewarding than just going to the supermarket. I know we've talked about this over and over, but that's...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you buy a pound of hamburger from the supermarket, you don't even know how many animals it came from. It could come from 10 different animals.
Right.
You don't know if they're healthy or, you know nothing about them. So I mean, to me, that's, this body of ours, we only get one life and we get one body, and it really should be your temple as you're using it over your lifetime. And who would want to put things in their body they don't even know where it comes from?
Right.
So to me, it just, there's nothing more organic, more pure, more natural than hunting your own animal and eating it.
Right. I
mean, it's been going on for a long, long time. And, just because people are urbanized nowadays doesn't mean that it's wrong. Maybe for them it is, but, great. I don't stop them from eating their hamburger. Go ahead.
Right.
But
I think there's also a big difference between, obviously, what we do as hunters we believe is the best option, but there's a big difference between industrial farming and people going to the grocery store and buying that kind of meat versus the sustainable ranching and things, because I want to make sure that people don't think we're bashing that, because I think that's also a great thing when you have a sustainable type of farm with the animals having good lives and you're not pumped full of stuff. That's not a lot different than hunting, really, except it's a cow instead of a deer or a cow instead of a moose. But that type of meat, you really have to go out of your way to try to find at a very specific supermarket, whereas what we do is we go do it ourselves, and we're just closing the gap between the disconnect of where your food comes from and what you're eating at your dinner table.
So the exception are Snicker bars and Twizzlers. Is that right, John?
any sugar, really, I think, for him.
Well, Twizzlers, Jubes, and wine gums, and nibs, and then potato chips, but only flavored ones, ketchup particularly. So that's yeah, not so much Snickers.
Yeah, I one of my favorite times, and this doesn't happen a lot, but Jim, when you go to your freezer, and I think it's in your garage, I'm not quite sure. I think it's a big white freezer. I've seen it on Facebook. When you open it up, I love it when there's just a whole bunch of wrapped meat in there that did not come from a supermarket. There's something like very, very rewarding to say, yeah, he gets it. I understand that.
Yeah, you're only seeing one of the freezers. It actually, how many do we have? I think there's 7.
A lot. And they all have signs on them saying, "Do not touch EVA, keep away EVA, Jim and Louise only."
I was getting ready to ask that question.
Yeah, we also grow a lot of our own vegetables and fruit and whatnot, do preserves. And Louise and I just made about 30 jars of Concord jelly the other day from our own Concord grapes. So there's more to just hunting is a lifestyle that goes beyond just killing an animal. For meat, for red meat, there's a whole bunch more to it, and it's a natural, organic lifestyle.
I assume that there were more freezers somewhere in the vicinity of that one. I assume that one was just the one that you happened to open that day. So, but no, I agree with you. I think that's 100%.
Yeah, there's one more freezer two more that are dedicated just to hides and mounted animals that aren't mounted yet. They're still in the freezer. So that's haven't quite figured out where the dollars are going to come from to get those all mounted someday, but they're there waiting to be mounted.
Yep. All right, so this is a question I've been meaning to ask, and you're in high profile zone, both of you, on TV. You have television shows, and everything about that's in your life evolves around hunting. There's this other group out there, and me included, and I'm not in the other group, I'm in your group, where we get right down to like death threats from anti-hunting groups. I'm curious how you handle somebody when you actually meet them, because I have never actually met one, really. They're all these keyboard fanatics that seem very tough behind the keyboard, but I've never seen them out in public. Have you ever bumped into them, and what do you say to them when something like that happens?
Well, I can't speak for Evie, but for me, I've been doing this now as a professional for 31 years, and I've never had anybody ever come up to me in person to my face and say something derogatory about hunting or about me or about my lifestyle or to utter a death threat. They're there. I see them protesting, 5 or 6 of them or 10 of them, loud, vocal people, but, at conventions, hunting conventions. But, I mean, compared to the 30,000 people attending, they're nothing.
Right.
I mean, they're a loud and, influential group for sure, but there's not enough of them. There's not enough of them to make up anywhere near a majority. They're maybe 10% of the people and of the general population, and of that, there's probably 1% of that 10% that are even, that are that adamant about it that they would come right up to you and say something. So I haven't seen them. I certainly suffer the death threats. I thought I had the world's record on death threats online death threats at 88 in 24 hours. But
oh wow, okay.
I think Evie's eclipsed me on that one over the years.
I think it's a lot easier for people to send death threats and comments of that nature with social media now, because I know that his 88 record was from his website, which actually made people have to go to his website, go into the comment section and post something, whereas with Facebook and Instagram, it's so immediate. People can do it a lot quicker. Right. So I've definitely had a lot more than 88. And I agree with what he's saying. I mean, obviously I have not been around the industry for 31 years, but the closest thing I've ever had to someone in person is the picket lines at SCI or one of the hunting conventions. And I was driving by one this year, actually, a few months ago. And I remember looking, and they have all these anti-hunting posters up. There's maybe 10 people tops. They're wearing, unless they're all wearing fake ones, they're all wearing, or a bunch of them were wearing leather shoes or leather belts. And we're looking at things going like, do you guys realize what you're wearing on your body that is no different than hunting, but less ethical, I would say. And then on top of that, the news is kind of all smoke and mirrors, because I went and turned on the news and they actually had coverage about this group of picketers, and it made it look like there was 50 of them or 300 of them, but really there was maybe 8 to 10 of them. And then just from the angles, it made their voices a lot louder than what they really were. And no one really cared at the time, but I'm sure on the news it made it look like a bigger deal than it really was.
Gotcha. Yeah, the media has a knack for that. That's for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, their job is to sell subscriptions, to sell viewership and get ratings, and it doesn't it will not serve that purpose if they tell the world, well, there's only 8 loudmouths here, and most of them are dysfunctional. So, that's not news. But if they can make it look like there's zillions of people, and I mean, let's face it, most people are intelligent, sentient human beings, and they're not going to fall for that stuff. Once you explain to them the conservation angle of it, of hunting, absolutely they're on our side. Poaching is a different thing. And that's where I think we get painted with the wrong brush a lot of times, is people think poaching and hunting is the same thing. They're not. They're not. It's like calling a bank robber the same thing as somebody who makes a withdrawal out of their account in the bank.
Right.
The same thing. They're not. One's a criminal, one's not. So but most people, the vast majority of people, are very open-minded about hunting as long as you can explain to them and educate them on the conservation aspects of it.
Yes, I agree. And I've never had anybody come up to me, and I'm glad you said that, because I was curious, somebody being in the industry for 30 years, have you ever actually had a physical encounter? And my guess is that you wouldn't ever have that, but you're always curious after all the keyboard people get on and they start bashing your site and privately tell you that, they want to stick you in the back of their pickup and drag you around town with your tongue hanging out, that kind of thing. Yeah.
The biggest, what they're trying to do is marginalize us and alienate us with the rest of the public and in some way cause us to feel bad about what we do and who we are. And if you care about what other people think, if you don't have the confidence to say, no, I'm right, I know I'm right. So you can say what you want. Slings and arrows hurt me, but words don't hurt me.
Right.
And I know absolutely 100% to the deepest part of my heart that hunting is going to be, in this next certainly 2 generations, the only thing that's going to save the wildlife around this world in so many parts of the world. So when someone comes over to me and says, or hammers me on Facebook, saying that it's horrible, the disgusting things they say, I still know I'm right. And I don't really care what they think about me. And no hunter should ever apologize. EVA says it. Never apologize for being a hunter, and nor should they.
Right.
So as long as you have the confidence to know you are right and don't care what people think. I don't care. I don't care if every single person in 100 miles of me doesn't like me because I hunt. It doesn't matter, because I know I'm right. And it's the only thing that's going to protect the wildlife going forward in this earth. Right. So, how can you care what people say about you? But, not everybody has that confidence in their beliefs.
Yeah. I bumped into a friend from college the other day, and I got to explain that I have this podcast that we're doing today, and that this led me to meet some very, very interesting people across the world, and has given me opportunities that I never thought I'd have in life. And the first thing that she said when she heard that it was about deer hunting, she said, "Well, you don't trophy hunt, do you?" And it was my opportunity to actually change her viewpoint. And I actually think I did by the end of the conversation by saying, I don't tend to trophy hunt because I do like to put meat in the freezer, but I would, and I have, and I will continue to do that. And I will also support anybody that wants to, because ultimately that's your biggest conservation effort right there. Because if you don't put a good price on the trophy hunt, then there will be no conservation whatsoever.
You're 100% right. And most people, like I say, they're open to learning. It's just they've been fed, the Cecil the Lion line of shtick for so long that they just regurgitate it. But as soon as you actually bring out the facts, and most people are ignorant of the facts, so they have no basis other than to say, well, it's bad. Well, no, it's not. Here's the reason why, and they have no counter to it.
Yeah.
So then they'll swing to your side because we're just human beings, and we're only as smart as what we learned to this point in our lives. So it's every hunter's responsibility, just like you did for that lady from college, is to educate as many people as we can, and do it not from a point of view of they're stupid and we're smart, but more from if we don't educate the rest of the world, these animals are going to be gone. They're going to be gone, and so then it becomes a lot more. It's not a fight. It's pure education,
right?
Pure enlightenment.
And that's the way I felt when I left the conversation. Like a light bulb went off in her head. And like, that's a successful explanation. I felt great. Finally,
Yep.
I had a aha moment that this is how I'm going to explain it from now on.
Yep, perfect. That's one tiny battle that we've won and on behalf of wildlife.
Yep.
And it's not even on behalf of hunting. It's hunting benefits, yes, but it's the wildlife that ultimately benefited from your one little battle. Now, if every hunter out there, the tens of millions of us, did that same thing every day to somebody, and it wouldn't take long before the world would understand.
Right, exactly.
I think a lot of them as well, when obviously conservation is the number one thing about hunting, but a lot of them, when you break it down, just saying, well, if you eat meat, I mean, do you know where your meat comes from? And when you actually explain it to them or let them taste up some of the wild game that you've cooked, like I've had girlfriends over that one of them was I guess it's called a pescatarian. Like she would only eat fish because she didn't want to eat any meat because she didn't like the farming. And she came to my house and I made elk, and I knew she was a pescatarian and I made it anyways. And I was like, I'm really sorry. There's other stuff you can eat if you don't eat it. And she's like, no, I'll try it. And she ate it and she loved it. And she said she's never thought about that. She's never considered it's not meat she doesn't like. It's the fact she doesn't know where it comes from. But the fact that I was serving her something, I knew exactly where it came from. I knew where I hunted it and knew the whole process from the field into my freezer onto the table. And it was just an incredible thing to see someone like that hadn't eaten meat in 10 years totally changed her whole attitude about it.
That's cool. That was one of those moments. You just like, I just feel good about being a hunter because I know I changed her perspective. And it's just awesome feeling.
Are you guys involved with any conservation groups?
Well, I mean, SCI is, I've been touting their, graces for the last 15 years on our Hunting Adventure show. I think it's a great organization. It's the strongest international hunting organization. They're heavy into lobbying. They're just a good organization. Dallas Safari Club as well. We've been involved with FNAS, which Foundation for North American Wild Sheep, which I think is now the Wild Sheep Federation, something like that. They've changed Grand Slam Ovis. So many, not so much on the turkey side or Ducks Unlimited, because again, it's birds, but we support them at arm's length for sure. Speak at as many of the events as we possibly can. It's it's every hunter should be a member of at least one of those organizations, and hopefully more than that.
Right. Yeah, it only makes sense to participate in your conservation in your area and worldwide, actually.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be local, like you say. Just support your local Ducks Unlimited chapter. That's worth doing, or your local SCI chapter, Rocky Mountain Elk Federation or Foundation. All those, they're all great and all important to be part of. Mule Deer Foundation. Yeah, every hunter should be involved with them, and yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to break it down, the SCI is the Safari Club International. Is that correct, Jim?
Safari Club International. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just maybe if there's a listener who didn't understand some, briefing of that, just so they know.
Yeah. I forget SCI. I live with it every day. So and BNC, Boone and Crockett Club, Pope and Young Club, Long Hunter Society. They're all really important organizations for hunters to belong to.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and just and it just boils down to a membership and some phone calls, and I'm sure that there's a lot of voluntary participation that you can get involved with.
Yep, it is, and even even if it's just your sort of vote of acceptance of these organizations, that gives a power. I mean, you've got 60,000 members. That speaks as one single voice when an issue comes up, and it's important. And even if it's 3,000 members, what's louder? 3,000 people yelling out about something that's unjust for wildlife, or just yourself yelling? It's very important to be part of these organizations if you're a hunter.
It's also, I think, a really good thing. People ask us a lot. You leave inspired because you learn so much about hunting and conservation. You are around other people that share the passion. And I know that when I leave inspired. And I know people, especially if they're not really familiar with it, I dare anyone to go that doesn't really understand hunting and tell them when they leave, I know that they'll have their attitude change and their mind will be a lot more positive towards it.
There's local fish and game clubs as well. Like British Columbia has their Wildlife Federation in Saskatchewan, Alberta. I mean, and always there's a little local organization that you can meet up with other people that are hunters, and they'll be happy to invite you in and teach you, to be able to hunt, to appreciate the hunting, and and where to go to hunt, learn the skills. So
that's probably one of the coolest and most awesomest thing about being a hunter is that when you get a group of people together and say somebody's there that's going on maybe their first hunt in a few months, and it's a great thing when there's a group conversation. Say us four was all standing somewhere and somebody's talking to us, and the education that we're all willing, like every hunter that you talk to is willing to share some experience or a scenario or a situation that they've been into. I think that's what I love, and I know that you guys love about the whole hunting family, is that we all can get along and relate to each other and kind of have the same envisions out in the woods and everything.
And we're just excited to have more hunters join in. I think that's a great thing for new hunters that are maybe a little bit intimidated about it, or they're not sure how they'll be accepted, because I've never met any hunter in my life that wasn't excited when they heard someone started hunting for the first time. And yeah, maybe they don't know everything about it. They don't have the same knowledge as a hunter that's a little more seasoned, but that's really not the part that matters. The part that you want to get out there, that you love wildlife. You're enjoying the same passion that we've all realized how much we love over the years.
What would you say, Eva, to a person that's just getting into hunting, and say they stopped and said, Eva, can you tell me anything that would push my way towards hunting a little better understandment? What would you say to somebody that's never hunted and they're looking to get into it?
I would say, like we just discussed, go try to find a local, whether it's a chapter or a group or an outdoor program of some sort. Go to the gun range or a local archery class, somewhere where people that already are familiar with hunting and the outdoors will be there. I mean, if you have a family member, that's obviously the easiest one, or a close friend. But if you don't have that, go somewhere where people with the same passion and the same like-minded ideas about hunting can teach you and you can learn from them. And the biggest thing for me, because I didn't start relatively that long ago, is just ask questions. You don't have to be a professional. You can laugh at yourself and realize you don't know a lot about it. And that's not going to make people think you're stupid or think you shouldn't be a hunter. It's going to make them, first of all, probably proud that they can answer the questions and look like they know what they're talking about. And then on top of it, you're going to leave with a lot more knowledge about what you're wondering about. It's a really welcoming community. I know when I started, I was worried, probably a little different perspective, but I was really worried when I started hunting that people would think I was only hunting because of my dad. Like I was trying to ride on his coattails, and I was just trying to start hunting for only that reason. It's not because I actually wanted to, which was not the case. I really didn't plan to be on the show. I didn't plan to make it a career by any means. I just wanted to hunt with them. And the first time I went to one of the conventions after my first hunt aired on the show, I was thinking people were going to kind of look at me weird, and it was not like that. They were so happy I was out there. They were so happy to see a father-daughter duo go out there and enjoy family and promote all the positive things that we try to promote on our TV show. And it was just really inspiring to see that welcome attitude, which I've tried to relate on to people now that I've been around for a little while. And when there's new girls coming up, I try to do the exact same thing to them.
Right. Jim, being seasoned as you are, how would you answer that question?
I think Evie really hit it on the head. There's not much I can add to that except to reiterate that the people that are in the hunting community are all good people. They're family oriented. They're, again, I'll use the words honorable and honest, and they're welcoming people, open arms, and it's a nice community to belong to, a nice group to belong to, a nice brotherhood. If you're using that term, it's nothing to be afraid of, and like I say, for a lot of people right now, it may be an answer to that question that so many people are struggling with nowadays. What am I doing with my life? Well, come try hunting. Meet some hunters and at one of these community groups and go hunting. You might just answer that question and take you on a course that'll suddenly give a enlightenment about why we're on this earth. Why are we here? You find that answer in the outdoors.
Right, for sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. Great answers. Jay, I want to get Jim and Eva. Let's get into thinking about one of your most memorable whitetail hunts together.
Oh, I need this answer.
All right, we have a winner.
He's going to try to steal mine, so I'm going to say my answer first. My favorite whitetail hunt, which is whitetails for our family, is a really a really special place because we have a family ranch out in Saskatchewan, a little tiny house sort of in the middle of the field. And we go every single year, and every year it's been a family occasion. So my mom will come out, my brother will try to come out if he can, and then my grandfather, my dad's from Saskatchewan, so he would come out when he was still with us, and then my mom's dad would come out. It would just be a big family event. And my absolute favorite whitetail hunt was one year we went out in the morning. We'd been hunting for a few days at this point, or I can't remember how many days.
I'm gonna stop you there. Let's roll back to what year are we going back to? Do you recall?
Dad, was it 2013? Probably.
You're asking me to think backwards. I'm like, to me, all the hunts were wonderful.
Yeah, probably 2000, maybe 12 or 13, somewhere in there. And we were hunting whitetails. And in the morning, my dad and I had already been out for a while hunting for the week probably previous. And in the morning, we finally a nice buck walked in, and I ended up shooting that buck, and it was a great, wonderful experience, really fun. We kind of were very relieved. We'd worked hard for it. And then in the afternoon, my grandfather, Hal, came out to the ranch, and we brought him out hunting, and he ended up getting a nice, he called it a soup buck, like good for making soup because it had lots of meat on it. And he got his buck, and that ended up being his last buck his last hunt he ever went on because he passed away the following year. And it was just one of those experiences. You can never redo it. You can never ask to do it any better than how we really had it all fall into place. And on top of that, we had it on film, which is really, I absolutely love that episode. I still watch it all the time, and it's going to be around forever. So that's my favorite memory of the three generations.
That is cool. That's cool that you can see the videotape. It's like, moments when I had with my dad growing up, we weren't videotaping hunting, but we'd have the 8mm tapes that we'd play back now and then, no sound or anything like that, but just capturing a moment on film with your grandfather, that's just priceless. And to have it captured in such a well-done format, that's even better.
Yeah,
we're very fortunate.
Most of my life has been on video, which if you can let go of everything else that's happened to us in our jobs and careers and anything that's been positive, my absolute favorite thing I would walk away with is the videotapes and the DVDs of all of our grandparents and me and my brother and my parents, and just the memories. You really could never replace that.
Right. So, Jim, you have been on a bunch of whitetail hunts yourself. I've also noticed that you've gone on some kind of crazy hunts lately in the Middle East. One of my favorite pictures is you sitting in almost like a Jeep with a machine gun surrounded by guards just to get you to the hunting location safely.
That would have been in Pakistan on the Togor Mountains, right on the border with Afghanistan. A pretty rough area, tribal area.
Yeah. Is that one of your most memorable hunts, or is there a whitetail hunt that tops that?
Well, every hunt is memorable. Every single hunt has redeeming features that I'll take the memories to my grave. So every hunt is memorable. But for me, just like Evie said, the most important hunts for me are not that I went out and shot a world record this or got a monster that or went to some crazy place. They're the hunts where I spent time in the wildlands with my family members. And as a parent, there's just nothing better than spending time with your own children in the field hunting and with their spouses now. Those memories are priceless. You can't even to put a number or to even talk about that it could have a value. It's just beyond value. It's inestimable. It's forever. And those are my most memorable hunts for sure. And whitetail, because that's what we grew up hunting in Saskatchewan and Canada, here in North America. So there's so many more memories from whitetail hunts than any other hunts. Anybody can hunt whitetails.
Yeah. Great answer. I love that answer. All right, so we're at the 10 rapid fire question part of the show, and I didn't prep you for this. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So we'll start with Jim, and then we'll skip over to Eva for the same question. We'll just go down the list. And they're not too hard. You'll know them off the top of the head, but we're going to... What's that?
I get some warning on them. This is perfect.
Yes. All right. But then we'll flip-flop, and I'll have Eva answer the next question first, so Jim can think about his answer. All right. There are a bunch of hunting tips out there. You've encountered a bunch. What's your number one hunting tip of all time?
Don't forget your binos. Without binos, we're blind out in the field. And I don't care if you're hunting inside a forest. Binos are vital.
Huge. Okay, Eva.
Right. I was going to say make sure you have the right gear, so I guess that would include binos, but more so make sure you have the right boots for the type of hunting you're on, or the right amount of layers for the type of weather, because a hunt can get ruined real fast if your feet are soaking or if you're too cold and you have no way to warm up or get dry.
We all have these things we bring into the woods with us. They're good luck charms, typically of some sort. They may or may not enhance your hunt, but you feel like they do. And it drives you crazy if you don't have it with you in your pack when you're sitting in the blind or in the stand or whatever. What's that one thing for you?
I really don't think I have anything that's a good luck charm. I go crazy when I don't have my cell phone to take photos, if that counts. But it's
absolutely,
not really,
that counts.
It's not a good luck charm. It's just I feel like I don't want to miss anything, and I want to make sure a big part of what I do is social media, and I like to share everything with people so they feel like if they can't maybe get out and do what I'm doing, they at least can see what it's like and experience it. So that's a big part of it for me.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes it's a good luck charm. Sometimes it's just something that you have to have with you. All right, Jim, what about you?
I fight being superstitious because it would be so easy to go down that road and end up with 100 stupid little things that you do. And where I find it is putting on my gaiters. I get in the habit of putting my right gaiter on first, and then it starts to become where I question whether I'm doing it right if I'm not putting my right one on first, and I'll purposely then put my left one on just to fight against going down that road of superstition. So I don't. There's nothing that I have with me or take with me that is charm. It's I fight the superstitions.
Okay, all right, good answer. All right, Jim, what's your biggest pet peeve?
I think it would be that. Well, I mean, number one, that we're misunderstood by the non-hunting public, and so the peeve part of it is that the press has the popular press has painted us as these louts with no higher sensibilities. So, and the fact that we've let it happen, so that's I'd say that's my biggest peeve, and maybe third is that hunters fight among themselves on baiting shouldn't be allowed, dogs shouldn't be allowed, only traditional bows should be allowed, no crossbows, no air bows, no. I hate that we fight among ourselves. We need to be one voice. Otherwise, we're just divided and conquered.
Right. The high fence thing, that's part of that whole.
Another one, yeah, exactly.
All right. Eva, how about you? What's your biggest pet peeve?
I thought he was going to not say it, but then you threw it in right at the end. Mine's 100% the fact if an anti-hunter comes and says mean things, I don't really care that much. But when a hunter says things to another hunter or says a thing to me about how I'm hunting or how I shouldn't be hunting or should be hunting, it drives me crazy because they just need to realize that we're all on the same team. It doesn't matter what our methods are as long as they're legal. And if mine's different than someone else's, I'm not going to bash that hunter. And I think people really need to realize that because it's up to us to join one united front and not make it easier target for the anti-hunters to come and get at us. So that would be my number one pet peeve that I have.
Eva, how old are you today?
28.
You're 28. What would you tell the 15-year-old Eva Shockey, knowing what you know now?
I would tell the 15-year-old daughter of Jim to listen a little more to my parents and to maybe pay more attention to the hunting stories and information that he shared, because I started at 20 and it was kind of a blank slate. But if I would have started a little earlier, I would have had a lot more knowledge going into my hunts. And I know that a big reason why I didn't hunt was because I was insecure with being a female who hunted, because at the time, it wasn't that long ago, but there really were not a lot of girls out there that did it. And the ones that did, I didn't really have access to them because it was before social media. And we lived in Canada, so we didn't have Outdoor Channel. And I would tell myself that just because you're a girl and you like hunting, there's nothing wrong with that. And you don't have to apologize for that. You don't have to change to go out in the woods. You can still be the same Eva in the woods and out of the woods and not have to change and just be happy that you love the outdoors.
Wow, that was deep.
Thanks, guys.
Nice.
I was making sure my dad can't top it.
All right, Jim. How old are you today, Jim?
I'm 15.
Okay.
He's old.
I'm sorry. Did that break up?
It did. It was a little broken there. I'm not sure why. Yeah, it must be Skype.
I'm 58.
58. All right. So, what would you tell the 25-year-old Jim Shockey, knowing what you know today?
Hang in there for just a few more months. You're going to meet Louise, and your life will turn around, and you'll be living happily ever after.
Nice.
And try learning a few dance steps before you go to the dance class next time.
Gotcha. And would you wear the tight white shorts again?
Absolutely. Like I say, advertising.
All right, Jim, you meet a stranger at a hunting convention in the hotel lobby. You strike up a conversation, and they ask you what you do for a living. What do you tell them?
I say I do a lot of different things. Number one is I'm a hunter and travel all over the world and do television shows about that.
Okay. Eva, what would you say?
I usually just say that my family's in the outdoor industry and I've grown up with it, and that's usually how I talk to people. And I prefer not to really say what we do in detail, just because I enjoy talking to people without them thinking it's a TV show and it's maybe you need to change the conversation or angle it a certain way. I really just like talking like any other hunter, because that's who we are. We hunt the same as anyone else hunts. We just happen to have TV cameras sometimes or all the time following us on the hunts. Yeah.
All right. Eva, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had a green smoothie with Mountain Ops protein in it.
Interesting. Sounds good. Jim, what did you have for breakfast?
I had a green smoothie with Mountain Ops protein in it.
Did you actually? Oh yeah, because Mom uses it too. That's funny.
Yeah, no, I had my wife calls it the green juice, and that's what she feeds me. That's what I drink. I don't know if it feeds me or drinks me. I don't know, but that's what we have in the morning, and some ginger and lemon sort of cold tea thing, and then a cup of decaf cafe latte coffee with almond milk, not with real milk. So
wow,
there's my breakfast.
All right. Very interesting. All right, Jim, you get your own billboard, blank slate. It's white. You can put anything that you want on it. What does it say?
Boy, that's I mean, I guess it depends on where the billboard is. If it's in a hunting community, then I'm a hunter and proud of it. And if it's downtown New York City, then I'd probably put I've got a new book coming out. Why doesn't everybody buy it? It depends. I think you'd waste the billboard if you put something, I'm a hunter and proud of it, in downtown New York City. Let's use it for something that generates revenues and use the revenues for educating the public, somewhere outside of New York City afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that's not an easy question to answer.
That's a good answer, though. I like that. All right, Eva, what would you put on your billboard?
Assuming it's sort of more around hunting and not New York City, more just in a normal location, I would say the tagline that I've used for a few years is never apologize for being a hunter, and we talked about that before, but I put that on shirts a few years ago because I say it all the time and I've said it in interviews, and these shirts kind of just went viral, and the saying went viral, and now people hashtag it all the time, and it's a really cool thing because it kind of makes you inspired and it makes you positive and realize you don't have to apologize for hunting no matter who doesn't think it's okay or who doesn't think it's a good thing to do.
All right, if I say the word successful to you, who's the first person that pops into your head and why?
You asking me or Eva?
Eva, sorry.
I was going to just say family right away. Success to me means having family or people that you consider family close in your life. A successful person, I would say my dad, which sounds kind of cheesy, but just because he's created a life for himself and he does exactly what he loves, and it's not about money, because clearly he's not someone that has more money than other people that I could list for that question, but he's just someone that does every single day what he's passionate about and what he loves, and it's just something that's really inspiring, and I would love to be in that similar position when I'm way older, when I turn 58.
Very good. How about you, Jim?
I'd probably pick me too.
That's not cheesy.
For totally different reasons, because somehow I've managed to stay so happily married and head over heels in love with my wife, Louise. I mean, I've had no problem doing it, but I've somehow managed to keep her. And to me, it sort of harkens back to what Evie said about family. It's family is the most important of all. That's a success when you have a family around you and you've created a family and passed on traditions and knowledge. So for me, I would have said Louise, but then I thought, oh no, because she's kind of ended up being married to me for 31 years, so that's not very successful. But for me to keep her, I'd say I'd pick me for that reason.
Gotcha. All right, Jim, what's a day in the life look like for you?
I travel 305 days a year, roughly, give or take, 5 or 10 days. So most days I'm waking up in some foreign country in some hard, cold, foreign bed, eating some strange foreign food, listening to people speak a foreign language. So, but then it all comes together when we step out into the wildlands and get hunting, because that's universal, or at least worldwide. Nothing changes. Hunters are hunters. Doesn't matter where they're from, whether it's Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, West Africa, or South America, North America, South Pacific. They're hunters are hunters, and so then it becomes a commonality that we all can relate to. So that my normal day, normally I'd be waking up somewhere that is far away from home.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's amazing. The hunter is the hunter, and you've traveled all over the world, but it always comes back to that. That's crazy. Very nice.
Doesn't matter what language, doesn't matter religion, doesn't matter culture or country, whatever your beliefs are hunters, and tribal warlord or a pygmy hunter in the forests of Congo. We understand each other. We don't even have to speak the same language.
Gotcha. All right, Eva, what's a day in the life look like?
My life is pretty split between a few different lives, I guess. I kind of consider, with my husband Tim, he's a hockey player, so when I'm at home, I'm in the hockey world, and I go to the hockey rink and I support him, and I'm one of the hockey wives, and they get to do all the kind of cool, exciting stuff as the hockey players, and the wives are kind of there clapping and cheering and being there for them. And then I go into my other life, which is traveling, whether it's hunting trips physically up in the mountains somewhere far, or if it's just work trips, like I'll host events and I'll go speak at banquets and I'll go to seminars, and just involving hunting. And I like it that way because it's not one or the other. It's a very nice balance, because when I get sick of one thing, I get to go do the other. And then by the time I miss the first thing, I go back and do it again. And it kind of balances out my life pretty well.
Gotcha. I'm going to hold the last question because it was about what's a deer hunting day in the life, but I think we answered that because you usually are hunting in some way, shape, or form. So we'll skip the question number 10. I can't thank you enough for joining us on the show, guys. It's just a tremendous experience and an honor getting to know both of you a little bit better for the last hour and letting me go a little deeper than what some people normally would. And I feel like I know you better in some way.
Yeah, thanks for having us. You didn't even
it's our pleasure.
I didn't stump you?
Not well. Maybe a couple questions.
No.
Some of the complimentary questions I had to go into I was not happy about, but we'll talk about that later.
All right, very good. Dusty, do you have any final questions for these guys?
No, I don't. They answered everything real thoroughly, and thanks again for joining us on the Big Buck Registry.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The two of them cracked me up.
I'm still laughing, Jay. It's just amazing that you would never expect that out of them.
Yeah.
And they cut up and they have a good time, and Jim's hard on her, and Eva's hard on Jim, and it's pretty amazing the bond that they have, and the capability to kind of not necessarily clown around, but to kind of cut up a little bit and enjoy their time together, and kind of give each other a little heck about what they got going on or what they do or how they hunt. Obviously Jim was a huge inspiration on Eva and educating her in the woods and showing her the ropes of the woods. And it shows that there's a bond there like no other.
It really is. I could see myself having a relationship with my daughter as she gets older in that way. And just, you kind of rub each other into, little jab, little poke, little ribbon. That's just the way it is. And I have that kind of relationship with my daughter now. So I would imagine somewhere down the road we'll be very much the same way that those two are.
Yeah, for sure.
Really funny, really good stuff. Well, I can't thank them enough for joining us as a tandem duo on the Big Buck Podcast, because I don't think it's been done before on any other podcast. We just like doing that type of stuff first here on our show. So that was really cool. Dusty, do we have a Chubby Tines tip of the week this week?
We do have a Chubby Tines tip of the week, Jade.
The Chubby Tines tip of the week is sponsored by Morse's Sporting Goods. Firearms, used firearms, bows, used bows, located at 85 Kentucky Falls Road in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Give Jim a call at 603-464-3444, morsessportinggoods.com. Your dollars go further in New Hampshire. There's no sales tax. Morse's Sporting Goods.
Tip of the week is get them trail cameras out there and get them rolling. The bucks are starting to show a little bit of antler growth. I just happened to run into a buck on the side of the road the other night, and I seen about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of velvet coming out of the skull, and they're starting to develop a little bit of antler, and not a whole lot, but I'm sure and many states that deer are starting to produce antlers. And, I'm going to recommend a USA trail camera to get out there in the woods and capture them deer as they grow this new antler growth for 2016, 2017 season.
Yeah, I love that idea because, you can start monitoring your deer herd and watching the calculated, documented, day-by-day growth with a really quality camera. You can really start to hone in on those. And it's just awesome watching the timeline.
Yeah, it's definitely really cool, Jay. The whole thing with me is that if you can notice them within 3 inches of antler growth, if you can pick out which buck it is, comparison to the years prior, or if you're fortunate enough to have the camera pictures from the years prior, you can almost see exactly what bucks have made it through and that are making that new growth. And every year a deer will put on inches, and if you can substitute that with a little bit of mineral and some feed, boy, it helps out, no doubt about it. And it's definitely a time of year that you can enjoy it and see how your herd is, what your buck numbers are, and what's happening in the woods.
That's a great idea. Absolutely love it, man. Well, it's been a great show. I want to say thank you to Jim Morse over at Morse's Sporting Goods for being a sponsor. And I want to say thank you to Jim Snow over at the Euro Hangar for being a sponsor on the show. It's just been a great ride, and without those guys, the show really doesn't exist in the format that it does. So can't thank them enough. Dusty, where can we find you when we're not hanging out here on the mic?
Hey, shoot me an email, dusty@bigbuckregistry.com. You can look me up on Facebook, Chubby Tines Outdoors. And if you want to get a little bit into my personal life, you can hit me up on Instagram @ChasingAntler. Jay, where can the people reach out to you when you're not on the mic?
Like you, the email is the best, jay@bigbuckregistry.com. You can always find us on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/bigbuckregistry. If you'd like to have your buck featured on the big Facebook page in front of, I don't know what we're at now, 229,000 or so followers, all diehard deer hunting fans, and you like to show off some of the successes you had in the woods over the last year or 2 years or whenever, send it to bigbuckregistry.com/mybuck, or go there and you'll see all the instructions that you need in order to get your buck featured on the Big Buck Registry Facebook page. You can also find us on Instagram, which is bigbuckregistry.com/Instagram, and on Twitter, which is twitter.com/bigbuckregistry. And you can always give us a call at 724-613-2825, or leave us a text and send us a text at that number. And we'll get that. And if you want to give us some feedback, let us know what you like, don't like. If there's some suggestions that you'd like us to pursue, or some guests that you'd like us to go get, all that is right there at your fingertips. And because we like to communicate with our listeners and our fan base, and quite frankly, you're it. So, Dusty, it's been a great show. Thanks for joining us once again and being the co-host and hanging out and talking deer hunting.
Yeah, we're going to be talking some turkey hunting this weekend, Jay.
Yeah, that is true. We're gobble gobble. We're going to be talking about it from the day you land to the day that we drop you back off at the airport, and probably well beyond that for many years to come.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
My name is Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillip.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Deer Hunting Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Can't wait.